So in this video lesson, we're going to take a look at some graphs of polynomials. We're going to identify the maximum, minimum, and then determine the end behavior based on just looking at a polynomial's function. So what is a maximum? It is the highest point or points on the graph. So for example, if I had something like this, this would be my maximum. Or I might have more than one. If I had this, these two would be my maximums. Minimum is the lowest point or points on the graph. So maybe something like that, we would have a minimum there, or maybe again multiple minimums. If we had something kind of like that, then we would have our minimums there. Increasing is the interval. I'm going to do it kind of in interval notation of x values. We always use the x's. When the graph goes up from left to right. And then the decreasing is the same interval of x values, but when the graph goes down from left to right. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of those examples, finding max, min, increasing, and decreasing. So first we need to go ahead and identify our point down here, and this is going to be our minimum. We don't have a maximum on this one, and so we are at -2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're at -2, -5, and that is our minimum. So you can see we are increasing from left to right from this point onward. So from this point onward, we are increasing. So this is a value -2 for our x. And then we're going forever up, which is kind of slanting to the right as well, towards positive infinity, so infinity. So there's our interval. From -2 to infinity, we are going upward. So now we can identify our decreasing, and that would be this side here. And it is, again, from left to right. Well, we're all the way continuing from negative infinity up to that -2. So negative infinity left all the way up to -2. And we are decreasing, going downward. Kind of see its decrease downward from left to right there. So go ahead and try this one, or you can continue to follow along if you need me to kind of assist you. There's our maximum, there's our minimum. And we're at -1, 2, and here we're at 1, -2. So maximum, -1, 2, minimum, 1, -2. And increasing, we actually have 2 increasing there and here. So negative infinity all the way up to, what's this x value? 1. So increasing from negative infinity to 1, and increasing from 1 forever to the right, so 1 to infinity. And then we have our decrease in the middle here. So decreasing from -1 to 1. So that should look familiar because we did that with domain and range in the first semester. So again, these are x values. We go from left to right. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at some graphs of different functions so we can kind of see what happens when we are looking at their degree and their leading coefficient. Okay, so we can kind of figure out things, but we're going to look for that pattern here. This page is when our leading coefficient is positive. So what that means is this number in front of our highest degree is a positive. So here's what our graphs look like. For a linear, it's actually going to go through 0, 0. So there we go. So from the left, we are coming from negative infinity, or it's a fall, if you want to kind of think of it as like falling and rising. And then on the right side of the graph, so left, right, we're going upward or rising, which would be a positive infinity. Let's take a look at our quadratic here, which we know looks like that. And so from the left side, we are rising. So that is a positive infinity. And on the right side, call that usually the end of the graph, it is also rising. We'll look for our pattern in just a second once we get all of these graphed. And we know what this one should look like because we graphed a lot of these. And from the left, it is negative infinity or a fall, and the right positive infinity rise. And then our last one is going to look like a big U shape. Sometimes you'll see like a little, it's a little off. There we go. That's better. All right, so we have a plus infinity on the left, and that's a rise, and then a plus infinity on the right, which is also a rise. Okay. All right, so let's take a look here. The leading coefficient is positive. Do you notice anything that's the same for all of these rises and falls? So fall, rise. So it's not the left, but hey, look at that. The right side, or the end of the graph, are all positive. So when the leading coefficient is positive, the right side is positive. All right, let's take a look at this next one when the leading coefficient is negative. Oh, the other thing to kind of look at is notice that these were an odd degree. Linear is odd, cubic is odd, quartic is even, quadratic is even. And what do you notice about their graphs? We can see that these are different, right? And these are different. These are the same. And these are the same. So when it's even, they go the same way. When it's odd, they're going different ways. Let's see if that holds true on this page here when we have the leading coefficient that's negative. So negative is going to make my graph go down for a negative slope there for this linear. So again, we are odd. We are different. So on the left side, we are going and rising. On the right side, we're going negative infinity and falling. And then for our quadratic, we're a negative in front, so we're upside down. So we're still going the same way on the left and right. We're both down, or negative infinity falling. So these are different. These are the same, even. And then cubic, but we're negative, so we're going to reverse. So we should be this way. So that means our left is a plus infinity or rise. Our right is a negative infinity fall. And again, we are odd, and these are different. And then our last one is going to be an upside down. And it is negative infinity, falling. And again, these are the same, and this is even. So to summarize, when they are odd, they go different directions. When they are even, the highest degree, they go the same direction. And then on this page, we had it as a negative leading coefficient. So what do you notice on this one? We were looking at kind of what those right side, the end of the graph, all had in common. And so let's look to see if these all have the same, and they do. They're all negative. So when it's a negative leading coefficient, the right side is going to go down. So positive, I'm going to do LC for leading coefficient. The right side is a positive. And if it is a negative leading coefficient, then that right side is going to go down or fall. So let's go ahead and practice some of that without a graph and just kind of looking at our polynomial. So I'm going to identify two things. I'm going to identify the highest degree and the leading coefficient's sign. So my highest degree on this one is an odd, and my leading coefficient is a negative. So what that means is the left behavior, we don't necessarily know what that's going to be, but we know the right for sure is going to be that same sign as the leading coefficient, negative infinity or a fall. It's going to go down. And then we know odd means that those are going to be different. So we know that this one's negative, which means this one would have to be different. It would have to be a rise, a positive. So first thing you're going to answer every time probably is going to be that right end behavior, depending upon what your sign of your leading coefficient is. Now this one's not in standard form, so 7x to the 10th, then 6x squared minus 3x plus 1. So really we're looking at our highest degree here is even, and our sign is positive. So our right end behavior is going to be positive, and even means they're going to go the same direction. So that means that this one's going to be positive or rise. So go ahead and try these two, 3 and 4, those last two on your own, and then push play and check your answers when you're ready. Squared is even, so that means these are going to be the same. And the sign of the leading coefficient of my highest degree is negative, so the right side is going to be negative infinity or falling, and this one would be the same as that one. On the last one, this is my leading coefficient because it is the highest degree. It's not in standard form. So this is odd, which means these are going to be different. So different directions. Different. And then I know my right end behavior is going to be the sign that's there, which is a plus. So plus infinity or a rise, and these being different means this one would be a negative or a fall.